I met Daniel on a hot afternoon. My bike had a flat tire again. I was near Fort Knox, where I live with my mother. My father works in the military. He is in another country, so it's just me and my mother at home. I pushed my bike all the way to a small garage down the road. That's where I saw Daniel for the first time. He looked busy, but calm. He was working on a car, but he stopped when he saw me. He took my bike and fixed the tire without saying much. I remember thinking he was quiet, but his face was kind. After he fixed it, I tried to pay him, but he didn't take any money. He just said I looked tired and should go home and rest. It was a short moment, but it stayed with me. After that day, I started seeing him more. Sometimes I had a reason, like a bike problem. Other times I just walked past the garage to say hello. He never asked why I came. He never looked angry. He would just sit outside, drink tea, and talk with me. He told me about his work. He said he lived alone and had no family in town. I told him about my life at home. He listened. He didn't talk over me or try to give advice. He just listened in a way that felt real. I had never felt that before. I felt like I could say anything. With him, I felt calm. I looked forward to seeing him every week. Daniel was older than me. He was 33. I am 21. But with him, I never felt small. I never felt like a child. He spoke to me like I was important. That meant a lot to me because at home, it was different. My mother is a serious person. She works hard. She wakes up early and does everything around the house. She likes order. She does not show her feelings. She talks only when needed. I help her with cleaning and shopping, but we don't talk much. My father is not home. He works far away and he calls once in a while. I miss him, but I don't tell my mother that. She is strong. She doesn't show sadness, so I don't show mine either. After a few months, I decided to tell her about Daniel. I thought it was the right thing to do. I didn't want to hide anything. One evening while she was cooking, I told her I was seeing someone. I said his name was Daniel. I said he was kind and worked at a garage. I didn't hide his age. I told her he was 33. She didn't ask much. She just said no. She told me to stop seeing him. She said he was too old. She said this was not love. She said I was too young to understand what I was doing. I didn't know what to say. I stood there holding a plate, just listening to her say no. That was all. She didn't want to know more. She didn't care how I felt. That night, I sat in my room for hours. I didn't cry, but my chest felt heavy. I told Daniel what happened. He said he understood. He didn't blame her. He said she was my mother and that mothers want to protect their daughters. I felt sad. I thought maybe if she met him, she would see what I see. I asked him if he would come to our house. He said yes. He came on a Sunday. He wore a nice shirt and brought flowers. He looked nervous but calm. My mother sat on the sofa and listened to him speak. He told her he worked hard. He said I was a good person and that he respected me. He said he had no bad plans. He just liked being with me. My mother didn't smile. She didn't ask much. After some minutes, she stood up and thanked him for coming. That was all. When he left, I felt cold inside. After he left, I asked her why she didn't even try to get to know him. She just said she knew this was not right. She said she could see it. I told her she didn't know him. She said she didn't need to. She said she knew me. She said this would bring pain, not joy. Then she walked away. From that day, things at home changed. She stopped waiting for me at dinner. She didn't ask where I was. She didn't speak much. The house was quiet and not in a peaceful way. I kept seeing Daniel. He didn't ask me to fight with my mother. He didn't speak badly about her. He just looked tired. I could see it in his eyes. He said he didn't want to hurt me. He said he didn't want me to lose my family. I told him I didn't want to lose him either. He smiled a little and said that love is not always easy. I knew what he meant. He was pulling away. I could feel it. One night he walked me home. We stood near the gate for a long time. He looked at the road, then at me. He didn't say much, but I knew. I knew he was saying goodbye. He didn't want to be the reason I lost my mother. He cared, so he stepped back. He walked away, and I didn't stop him. I watched him until he turned the corner. When I walked into the house, my mother was sitting at the table. She looked up at me and asked if it was over. I didn't answer right away. I just stood there. Then I said yes. I went to my room, lay down on the bed, and looked at the ceiling. I didn't cry. I didn't sleep. I just stayed still and quiet for the rest of the night. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. After Daniel walked away, I tried to return to normal life. But something had changed in me. The days felt longer. My room felt smaller. Even the quiet in the house sounded louder than before. My mother acted like everything was fine. She cleaned, cooked, and folded clothes like always. She didn't say anything about Daniel again. She didn't ask how I was feeling. She didn't ask anything at all. She just acted like it never happened. But I felt it inside me all the time. Each morning I helped her in the kitchen. I washed the dishes while she made breakfast. We didn't talk. She gave me a task, and I did it. Sometimes I wanted to say something, about Daniel, about how I missed him, but the words never came. I didn't know how to speak to her anymore. It felt like we were two people living in the same home, but in two very different worlds. When I walked to the store or past the garage, I looked for Daniel. Sometimes I thought I saw him from far away. My heart would jump, and I would stop walking. But most of the time, it wasn't him. Or maybe he saw me, but didn't say anything. I didn't know. I didn't go near the garage anymore. It felt wrong, even though I wanted to. I didn't want to make things worse at home. I didn't want to break the small peace I had with my mother. But the truth was, I thought about him every day. I remembered small things, how he used to fix my bike without asking questions, how he made tea with too much sugar, how he let me talk without rushing me. He never tried to make big promises. He just made me feel safe. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. I missed that. And I missed who I was when I was with him. I felt seen. At home, I was just someone who followed rules. My friends didn't know much. I didn't tell them the whole story. I just said that I stopped seeing someone because my mother didn't approve. Some of them said I should have fought harder. Others said it was better to listen to my mother. But none of them really understood. They didn't grow up in my home. They didn't know my mother. She was not a bad person. She just had her own way. Her love was quiet. She showed care with clean clothes and hot meals, not with soft words or long talks. Some days I stayed inside all day. I cleaned the floor, washed clothes, and folded towels. I did these things because I didn't know what else to do. I stopped reading books. I didn't play music anymore. I didn't go out unless I had to. It was like I was waiting for something, but I didn't know what. I just knew that something inside me was tired. I didn't feel strong like before. I felt small again. Weeks passed like this. My father called once. He spoke to my mother for a long time. Then she gave me the phone. He asked how I was. I said I was fine. He told me he was proud of me. I said thank you. That was all. I wanted to tell him everything, but I couldn't. I didn't know how to start, so I stayed quiet. When I gave the phone back to my mother, she didn't say anything. She just hung up and went back to folding clothes. One evening, I was standing near the window. The sun was low, and the sky looked orange. I saw a couple walking down the street. They were laughing. The woman held the man's arm, and he looked at her like she was the only person in the world. I watched them until they turned the corner. Then I sat down on the floor and stayed there. I didn't cry. I just sat and listened to the sound of nothing. Later that week, my mother asked me to go to the store. I walked there slowly. I passed the garage but didn't look inside. I didn't want to feel that pain again. But as I walked past, I heard someone say my name. I turned and saw Daniel standing near the garage door. He looked the same, but also different. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept well. I stopped, but I didn't move closer. He didn't walk toward me either. He just looked at me and gave a small wave. I waved back. Then I turned and walked away. I didn't go into the store. I walked around for a while before going home. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about his face. He didn't look angry. He didn't look sad. He just looked like someone who missed someone else. I wanted to talk to him, just once, to say thank you, but I didn't know if it would help or make things harder. So I stayed in bed and waited for the night to end. After that day, I didn't see him again. Maybe he left. Maybe he found someone new. I never asked. I didn't want to know. I needed to move on, even if it was slow. I started going out again. I walked in the park. I watched the birds and the trees. I sat on benches and tried to feel normal again. Slowly, my days became a little easier. I still thought of him, but not every hour. Sometimes a whole morning would pass before his name came into my head. One day, my mother and I were in the kitchen again. We were both quiet. Then she said, without looking at me, "You did the right thing." I didn't answer. I didn't know what to say. Maybe she was right. Maybe I would never know. But I felt something inside me. Not peace, not joy, just a soft pain that I could live with. I finished washing the dishes and went to my room. That night, I looked in the mirror. My face looked the same, but I felt older. I had lost something, but I also felt like I understood myself more. Love is not always enough. Sometimes, even when two people care about each other, life pulls them in different directions. And sometimes, even if it hurts, we choose family. Not because it is easy, but because it is a kind of love too. Some months passed. The seasons began to change. The air was cooler in the mornings, and the sky turned gray more often. The trees outside lost their leaves one by one. At first, I thought life would feel normal again. I tried to follow the same steps every day. I helped my mother with housework. I went to the market when she asked. I walked in the park when I felt too full inside. I didn't speak about Daniel. I didn't think about him all the time like before. But I still remembered. Not like a fresh wound, but like an old photo in the back of a drawer. It was there. It didn't hurt the same way, but it was still part of me. One afternoon, I was sitting on a bench in the park. It was quiet. There were a few children running around and some people walking their dogs. I sat still and watched the wind move the grass. It was simple, but for the first time in weeks, I felt calm. I didn't think of what I had lost. I didn't think of what I could have had. I just sat with the silence. I stayed there until the sun started to go down. When I got up to walk home, I felt a little lighter. At home, my mother had made soup. She didn't say much, but she had placed a bowl on the table for me. We sat together and ate in silence. There were no big words between us, but the small actions began to speak more than her old rules ever could. She didn't ask where I had been. She didn't say I should do more or be different. She just let me sit with her, and that was something. Later that night, I looked through some old photos on my phone. I saw one of Daniel and me. It was from far away. He had taken it when I was drinking tea and laughing about something. I didn't delete the photo. I didn't open it either. I just let it sit there in the gallery like everything else I had saved over the years. I didn't want to remove him from my life. I only wanted to carry him quietly, like a memory I could respect. The next morning, I woke up early and made breakfast. My mother walked in while I was placing eggs on the plate. She looked surprised but didn't say anything. She sat down, and I joined her. It was the first time in a long while that I had cooked something for her. We ate slowly. I didn't talk, and neither did she, but something felt different. She poured me tea and placed the cup in front of me. That one small act said more than any long talk could have. Some days later, I decided to go to the other side of town. I didn't have a reason. I just wanted to see something new. I got on the bus and looked out the window the whole ride. The houses looked different there. The streets were busy. There were families walking together, small shops, and loud music from passing cars. It was a new view, and I liked that. I walked into a small store and bought a notebook. Not to write about pain, not to keep letters. Just something simple. I didn't even open it that day. But it felt good to hold something that was just mine. After that trip, I started taking small steps again. I applied to a local job that needed help at a repair shop. Nothing big. Just cleaning and taking phone calls. It wasn't far from home, and I thought my mother would feel okay about it. She didn't say much when I told her. She only asked if I needed help with my clothes. That was her way of saying yes. The new routine gave me something steady. I didn't think about the past as much during the day. I stayed busy. I met a few kind people, and I learned small things about the work. I was quiet most of the time, but I started to laugh more. Not the loud laugh I had with Daniel, but something softer. I was becoming part of the world again, little by little. Sometimes I still passed the road where the garage was. The building was there, but the door stayed shut. I don't know if Daniel left or just worked different hours. I never tried to find out. I didn't need to see him anymore. I had already said goodbye in the way I needed to, not with words, but with the choices I made afterward, with the way I lived my days without anger. One evening, my mother came into my room while I was folding clothes. She stood at the door for a moment. Then she sat on the edge of the bed. She looked at the window and said very quietly that she hoped I wasn't unhappy. I didn't know what to say. I just looked at her. Then I said I was okay. Not great, not full of joy, but okay. And that was true. She didn't say more. She just nodded and got up. But that moment stayed with me. It was the first time she had shown any sign that she worried about how I felt. It wasn't much, but it mattered. We didn't need to agree on everything. We didn't need to speak all our feelings. But I could see now that she loved me in her own way, even if it was quiet and hard. I never stopped missing what I had with Daniel, but I stopped wishing to go back. I knew that if we had stayed together, the fight at home would have grown louder. The silence between my mother and me might have turned into something cold and permanent. Maybe love is not always about holding on. Maybe sometimes love is also about letting go before everything breaks. Now when I think of him, I feel sad, but I also feel grateful. I don't carry anger in my heart, just a quiet thanks. He showed me something true, even for a short time. And I think he let go not because he didn't care, but because he cared too much to make things worse for me. Life didn't become perfect after all this, but I became stronger. I learned that I can lose someone and still find myself again. I learned that love can be real and still not stay. And I learned that peace with someone you live with is sometimes more important than proving who is right. And even if my mother and I never speak about him again, I know we both remember. We just remember in silence. And sometimes that is enough.